Hello and welcome to Read Aloud Stories with Mrs. R. I'm Mrs. Rosenthal, but a lot of kids like to call me Mrs. R. Do you like to go to the library? I know I do. Do you have a library card? In the story I'm about to read, the main character is thrilled to get her very own library card. She loves the book she borrowed. But what happens when she forgets to return that book on time? The title of the book is Beverly Billingsley Borrows a Book. Beverly Billingsley Borrows a Book by Alexander Stadler. Every Tuesday afternoon, Beverly Billingsley went to the library with her mother. Beverly loved the library, and this Tuesday would be even more special than usual.
Is today the day I get my own card?
Beverly asked. Yes, answered her mother. Mrs. Del Rubio was the new librarian. Beverly straightened her bow and said,
I would like a library card, please.
Wonderful, said Mrs. Del Rubio as she finished shelving some books. Please, follow me to my desk. Mrs. Del Rubio had a long list of questions. Beverly answered each one correctly. Her mother didn't have to help her with a single thing. A few seconds later, Mrs. Del Rubio looked Beverly straight in the eye and said, Miss Billingsley, you are now a member of the Piedmont Public Library. You may take out any book you like. Beverly searched the shelves until she found what she wanted, a big shiny book called Dinosaurs of the Cretaceous Period. As Mrs. Del Rubio stamped the book, she said, Remember to return it by April 7th. Beverly loved Dinosaurs of the Cretaceous Period. She couldn't put it down. On Wednesday, after school, she studied the iguanodon. On Thursday and Friday, she read about the Ankylosaurus. She spent several days building a prehistoric jungle habitat. Beverly read everywhere, at the dinner table, in bed, even in the tub. On Monday morning, Beverly woke up early to finish the final chapter, Eating Habits of the Triceratops. As she turned the last page, she saw, stamped inside the back cover, Return by April 7th. Beverly looked at her calendar. The date was April 8th.
Oh no,
she whispered.
I'll return it today, after school,
she told herself. At lunch, Beverly sat next to Sheila Rose Hofstetter.
Do you know what happens when a person is late returning a library book?
Beverly asked.
I'm not sure, Sheila said, but I think you have to pay a lot of money.
Like how much?
Asked Beverly. Oh, like $1,000, I think, answered Sheila.
Carlton Chlomsky had been listening to their conversation.
My mother's friend's cousin's brother was late with a library book, and he went to jail, Carlton said.
I can't believe it,
said Beverly.
Believe it,
said Carlton, munching on a carrot. That afternoon, as she was walking toward the library, Beverly's stomach started to ache.
Maybe I'll return the book tomorrow,
she said to herself in a small voice. Beverly didn't eat much at dinner.
I'm not hungry,
she told her parents. Even with chocolate cake for dessert? Asked her mother. Is anything wrong? Asked her father. Beverly shook her head and went to bed. That night, Beverly had a strange and frightening dream. A big green triceratops stuck its head through her window.
Return me,
it growled.
Return me, Beverly. I am overdue. Return me, or I will gobble you up.
But you're an herbivore, Beverly shouted. You eat only small plants and other vegetation. It says so on pages 42 and 43.
Suddenly, Beverly woke up. Her mother was sitting on the edge of her bed. "What's the matter, Beverly?" her mother asked.
"I have to return the book, and the dinosaur is mad at me, and Mrs. Del Rubio is going to take all my money, and I don't want to go to jail."
Mrs. Billingsley smoothed the fur on Beverly's ears and gave her shoulder a little squeeze. "Don't worry, honey," she said. "Nobody ever went to jail for an overdue library book. Tomorrow we'll go and return the book together." The next day after school, Beverly and her mother went to the library. Beverly took a deep breath as she walked up to Mrs. Del Rubio's desk.
"My book is overdue," she said.
Mrs. Del Rubio opened the book to the back.
"Well, it's only a couple of days late, dear," she said. "We won't worry about it. Just try to be more careful next time."
And then she closed the book and smiled.
"Now, isn't that funny?" said Mrs. Del Rubio. "Oliver Schumacher walked in here not 5 minutes ago and asked about this very book. I think he's in your grade. Shall we take it to him?"
"Hi,"
said Oliver.
"Hello,"
said Beverly.
"What are you working on?"
"I'm doing a report on pterodactyls,"
said Oliver.
"Did you know there was one that had a 50-foot wingspan?"
asked Beverly.
"And it could still fly?"
asked Oliver.
"Yes,"
said Beverly.
"Here, I'll show you. There's a picture of one in chapter 11.
And that is how the Piedmont Dinosaur Club began. Isn't it wonderful that Beverly didn't get into any trouble at all? I'm so glad she made a friend, and they started the Dinosaur Club. Meanwhile, thanks so much for watching. Beverly Billingsley Borrows a Book at Read Aloud Stories with Mrs. R. Until next time, don't forget to read.